Welcome to Tall Hungry Girl Talks. Today I'm going to talk about my brand, why I created it, and I have a special guest here, also known as my bestie, to talk about boundaries. May we have them, may we know what they are, and may we respect others. So first, though, I want to talk about the name Tall Hungry Girl and how I came up with that. I'm tall, and I'm also hungry. To the point that over the course of my life, people have asked me if I have tapeworm. I do not, at least currently. But perhaps the constant hunger came from fighting with the 5 other people in my family over food. But really, the reason why I created Tall Hungry Girl was 5 years ago. I was working at a production company and working long hours and going back and forth to the grocery store next door. And I visited this grocery store so often that upon my vacation, the grocery store clerk asked my coworkers, "Where's the Tall Hungry Girl?" And the name just stuck. And so my coworkers, have called me that since. And so it's been kind of an inside joke for a long time. And so from that, I made a blog, which most recently turned into a website and a brand called Tall Hungry Girl. I write about my travels, mental health, and food and everything in between. I love to cook. And so I post a lot of my recipes, but just, different issues about mental health and, the struggles that we all go through as humans. So that's just a little bit about my brand. But without further ado, I want to talk about boundaries to get to the meat of the podcast today. So I'm going to introduce Gina, one of my dearest and bestest friends. She works in administration and is also the unofficial president of the Beehive. For her 40th birthday, she's doing a dance rendition of a mix of Beyonce songs. Yes, 2 snaps. Basically, she'll be doing a G-Cella, hiring professional dancers and all. So that's her personality in a nutshell. Gina also serves as the unofficial mayor of the DMV. I can literally never go out with her without running into one of her many friends. So I wanted to sit down and talk with her today about managing all of those friendships and setting boundaries within that space. I think the reason why this is such an interesting topic for me is that I've really been navigating this journey of establishing boundaries. I think in my 20s, I would basically say yes to any social obligation and didn't have a lot of boundaries with a lot of relationships in my life. And then I found myself giving so much that I just got angry and literally just built like a castle around me.
Yes.
complete with moats and everything. And so now, the pendulum is swinging back to the middle. I'm realizing that I don't need to cut off everyone in my life if they upset me or I feel like they're breaching a boundary. So, that's kind of where I am and the reason why. So I wanted to talk with Gina today about, it seems like women particularly have a lot of difficulty with boundaries, especially with men, but with, friends and saying no. We try to be everything to everyone. So can you talk a little bit about that? How have you been able to navigate that in your own life and with all of your friends?
Lots of therapy. No.
Yes.
Yes. I actually didn't even realize I had a problem with setting boundaries. I was 28, and I had met this guy at the Obama, his first inauguration party, and I thought I was in love after like 2 weeks. And so then...
Been there.
I had planned the wedding and everything.
Uh-huh.
And he lived in Kansas, and so I flew to Kansas to hang out with him, and he wanted, and before I'm like, how long are you going to be there? He's like, a week. I'm like, oh, he loves me, whatever. Like, I'm going to be there for a week. And on day 2 of my trip, he broke up with me. He told me he didn't really like me that much. Like, his words were, "You're just not the one for me." And I'm like, well, yeah, right? No. But anyway, so I was so sad, and I went back home, and I started thinking, like, how did I end up here at this age? And I went to visit my doctor, and she was like, you should see a therapist. Like, you're really sad. So I go to see this therapist thinking that she's going to tell me how to fix my man issues, right? But instead, we start talking, and over the course of the next 11 years,
Sometimes it takes a while. That's
right?
okay.
Right? She ends up helping me realize how it really is about like boundaries I set with people, and I wasn't setting with people. So I was always finding myself disappointed. At that point, I realized it was by men, but we later learned it wasn't only by men. It was by my friends, it was by my family, and it's because I didn't have any boundaries. So I was willing to give 1,000,000% of myself to them, and I was always so sad and disappointed when I wasn't getting anything or the same back. And then like after examining that more, she had me really think about like the value of myself and like really not really feeling like worthy. And so, which is why I was giving so much, right? Like afraid to say no because then maybe people would go away or maybe I wouldn't be like the favorite or for whatever reason, like they wouldn't see me or want to hang out with me. And so she just really helped me see the need for it. Now the work was really hard, right? Because for me, I had to start with my mom. And growing up with like my dad, who was never there, he was always the villain in my heart, in my mind. And so I was really uncomfortable, right, with setting those boundaries with her because I'm like, no, my mom's a good person. She's this, she's that. And my therapist is like, yes, and, right, you still need some boundaries with her because she has an effect on you and is causing some other things with you. So that's like where it first started. And then being able to like redefine relationships with my friends, which was really hard for some people. I had some friends who noticed me setting boundaries. I would say no to things. I would speak up for myself a little bit more. And I had some girlfriends who'd be like, wow, I really like this new Gina, no matter what. And then there are some friends who felt some kind of way about it.
So did you find yourself in conflict with some people?
There were some friends I did, but some friends it wasn't. I was nervous at first, right? But I would keep telling myself, like, I have to do this for me. So I'd be afraid to say no. And for some friends, if I was saying no to other people, they were all about it, right? But then when the boundary came and I had to set it with them, there was definitely some feelings around it and reestablishing the relationship, redefining the relationship, because those were hard boundaries because I had none. And so I had to put up some. And it was really hard because I was always like a people pleaser and the go-to for everyone, everything and everyone, like everyone's security blanket, right? Like Gina will be there, Gina will do it. And then when I was like, no, actually I won't, it was really hard for people. It was hard for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when your tank is empty, you can't, you know.
Yeah, you can't pour from an empty cup. So just remembering that was like really, really challenging for me. And I think still, right? And like you were saying, when I first started with my therapy and on this process, I did swing to the opposite side of the pendulum. Like, I was like, no holds barred. You can tell me nothing. I was mad at everybody. Every time somebody asked me something or made any type of request, it was like an attack. And my response was that way. And so over time, I've really had to learn to like navigate that and really internalize the why behind the boundary. So then now it comes from a more authentic and genuine place. So it's not with malice. It's not with ill intent. So I think they're better received.
Yes. And I feel like I went through a similar process. And, I think sometimes I'm still going through that process.
Yes.
That laugh is because she knows. Of just being angry and thinking that, like you said, everyone is attacking you and, you're being disrespected. And it's like, no, it's really not that deep. Everyone has their own things going on. And to, take into consideration that there is another side to the perspective. And so that is something that I don't always have to be reactive.
Right.
And thinking that, like, I don't always have to establish this just firm boundary. And so that is part of my pendulum swinging back to the middle of, like, okay, it doesn't always have to be so extreme. This can be something that I handle internally. If I'm upset, I don't always need to say something about it. I don't always need to let the other person know. That's every day someone's going to piss you off and you're going to spend a lot of energy telling everyone that, they've pissed you off when, really, like, we make errors too. So you want to offer some grace.
Right.
But Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just thinking, and also like just me remembering to always, for me, presume positive intentions, right?
Yeah.
So like, don't. These are your.
She
friends.
tells me this all the time.
Like, this is your homegirl. Like, she would never intentionally hurt you. She may have done something to upset you, but like understanding that that probably wasn't her intent, even though it made you feel that way. So just like adjusting how you approach it. But it doesn't mean you don't have to say something, and you can set up boundaries. We set up emotional boundaries all the time with people. It's how I navigate through so many friendships, but it doesn't have to be like this big dramatic deal. Because making it a big deal makes it about them, and it's not about them. It's about me. So I just need to have this to myself and set it up for myself. I don't even have to tell anybody about it. I'm going to just keep moving the way I move. But this
and
is
flow
what it
a little
is.
bit differently next time.
Yeah.
With that knowledge. So that brings me to the next topic, which has been a big deal all of my life, is time. The reason I am such a psycho about time is I love my parents. They're amazing people. But they used to leave me places. So I would be at volleyball practice or tap practice, and they literally would not come and pick me up. I mean, they were busy. My dad was, taking care of my grandmother who was ill. My mom was, a teacher, so sometimes she would have to stay late and deal with kids. And then I had 3 other siblings, and, my youngest brother's autistic. And so we just had a lot going on. And so they would leave me at tap class. And so the tap teacher would have to take me home, after waiting there for 3 hours. And so, going into adulthood, that was my way of being able to control things. I know if someone's on time, I know they're going to show up. And so it's like I have been so vigilant and kind of, I hate to use the word Nazi, but really just a time Nazi and expecting that people are always going to be there, and that's disrespectful if you're late. And so, I have a really, really dear friend who cannot be on time to save his life. He'll remain nameless, but he's one of the most amazing people I know, and has been there with me through so many struggles. I've known him since I was like 19 years old, and we went to college together, and he lives here now. He hangs shelves for me. He picks me up from the airport, and we are that friend to each other. So it's an even exchange, but he's always late. And so I've had to be have grace with that and realize that like he has made enough deposits into our friendship that is just something that I just know about him. When he really needs to be on time, like when he's picking me up from the airport, he will be. But if it's a dinner or something like that, he's typically late. Mm-hmm. And so, but he has made so many deposits into our friendship that, that is something that I don't want to say allow, but I don't, allow myself to get upset about it.
I think because, like you talk about the deposits, like he cares about you.
Yes.
And I think, especially in thinking about with your parents not being there on time, you equate that with like value and caring. And so if someone is on time, they care about you, and you can trust it. If they're not, you really do take it. It's like sometimes like rejection, or like now you know what, if you're not going to show up on time for this, then I don't think I could count on you for other things. Yeah. But for him, he's shown you that you can count on him. Yeah. So you're just like, and this is just something else. But it doesn't work that way with like other people. Like dates.
Yes. If we're going on a date, be on time. But it's another one of those examples of the pendulum. You can't be extreme in every area of your life. There has to be, it is, as my friend would say, a non-negotiable for me. But I realized that like, there's a lot of great people who aren't always on time.
Yeah, life is gray.
Yeah.
For me.
Exactly. It's dynamic. Things happen. And so, if someone is continuously a shithead and an hour or two late, but if 15, 20, 30 minutes, traffic is bad, whatever. So I've tried to improve in that area. Even though it continues to irk me, I do allow, I'm learning to allow for, that space. So I don't know if as my friend you could agree, or I'm getting better.
She's getting better. It's still a struggle with dates, but she's getting better with her friends.
Don't be late.
Don't be late. Don't be late. Right. But I was talking to her about it the other day, and I told her I get it, right? Because I'm someone too who is punctual most of the time, and who really does. I develop some anxiety when people are late. And when I think about it, it really is because of that, like time being such like a great currency, right? Like you can really show someone how much you care about them by honoring it, and you can show someone or make someone feel like you don't by not. And so just like finding that balance between like working out my own stuff when it comes to people and time versus like putting it on them. Because if I'm going somewhere, if Tahira if she happens to run late, I really don't think twice about her showing up. I don't think twice about our friendship. But for me, when it's men, and if it's a guy that's running late for something, I literally start to doubt everything.
Yeah.
Like, oh, what did I say that one time that maybe he won't show up? Or why is he late?
Yeah.
Or what does this mean, you know?
Was my eye makeup messed up?
Right. Right.
Ridiculous things.
Did I laugh too loud? Was
Yes.
I too Gina? You know, did I say too much? Did he not get my joke? Like, all this stuff goes through my head. And it's so silly when you think about it, because while I'm having all this internal monologue because someone is running 5 or 10 minutes late, they literally are just in their car chilling, listening to songs on their way to see me.
Not thinking about
anything.
your eye makeup.
So when they get there and I have a look on my face that I have to process,
Yes.
they're like,
and wipe the attitude off.
Wipe the attitude off and just be like, hey. And then you make like that sarcastic, passive aggressive,
Yeah.
like, hey.
The guys know, but they ignore.
They ignore, right? They're so good at that. But yeah, time is tough.
Yeah. So, you know, we talked a little bit about it at the beginning, but saying no, that has been like, oh, I feel like, you know, I have this quote from Brene Brown. I'm going to pull out my cell phone for this because I definitely took a screenshot of this. So she says, daring to set boundaries is about having the courage to love ourselves, even when we risk disappointing others. We can't base our own worthiness on others' approval. And this is coming from someone who spent years trying to please everyone. Only when we believe deep down that we are enough can we say enough. And I think that that is so true. I think, you know, I spent so much time in my 20s, like saying yes to social obligations, cooking, you know, inviting everyone over to my house, cooking dinner for everyone when these people aren't, you know, necessarily reciprocating, but really my well was dry, which led me to a place of kind of, you know, being angry. And so, but it's like as women, because I say as women because I've never been a man, so I can only speak from my perspective. But I also see it in, you know, my other, you know, girlfriends that we always are like, oh, is it bad if we don't go to this birthday party? I'm just so tired, or I'm so stressed out, or, you know, we're always trying to have these like reconciliations with ourselves when it's okay to say no. Like,
for me, so as far as like going to things, I don't mind. Like, I know like I'm like a true extrovert. Like, I get my energy from other people, right? So when I'm sad, it helps me around other people if I'm just in their space. So I don't necessarily need to retreat to re-energize. But I know for me, I realized when I was around, I don't know how old, I was in my 20s, and I was dating this older guy who said no to me. And I remember feeling like it was like the worst thing ever. And when I thought about it, I'm sorry, I don't think I heard no growing up. For me, I'm just saying, like, people didn't say no to me, so I just got used to it, right? So then I didn't say no, though. Right? Because for me, I was taught that you just make a way. And even when you think about it, I still struggle with saying no. I'll be like, well, I'll see, or you can't you say no with an explanation. And sometimes it's like, no, I just don't want to, you know?
Like that meme where, you know, the best plans are canceled plans. You know, like on a Friday night.
Yes.
Like you're wishing that the other person cancels before you want,
right,
you know.
Right. And so, and like when you mentioned earlier about me having like all my friends, for me, it comes to a point where I have to just like make decisions. Right? I'm not saying prioritize because I don't do that. I just make decisions in the order that it happens because I can't go, especially as I'm getting older. Like when I was younger and I first started teaching, you know, wanting to be such this powerful, amazing teacher, I would literally spend my weekends going to all my kids' soccer games, going to their baseball games, going to their house for dinner, like every weekend, and then still saying and doing everything for my friends because I didn't want to say no, you know. But as I've gotten older, I've had to prioritize. And then I think also sometimes it seems like when you're single, people expect you to be there because you don't have a reason. Like, I got a boyfriend, and it was easy. People were like, oh. Or I remember when I went back to school for that year, people were like, oh, she's in school. But I have to be comfortable with them being okay with understanding, I may not have anything to do today, and I come 99% of the time, but today I kind of just want to sit on my couch and do nothing.
Yeah.
I don't have other plans. I have plans of myself,
Yes.
right?
My plan is a nap.
Right.
Mhm.
So then being able to say I can't do something, or I can't go somewhere, or just I don't even want to.
Yeah.
And that's hard.
Yeah.
Because it does feel very personal.
Yeah.
And I would never want to hurt anyone's feelings.
Yeah. And on the flip side of that is, going through this journey, because we've been friends for a long time now.
Mm-hmm.
On the flip side of that is respecting your friends when they start to have more boundaries.
Yeah.
And not being, you navigate your own journey, but, when, you say, no, I can't. And you're like, damn, but she always says yes when I want to go to dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And not being disappointed and taking that personally.
Right. And really caring enough to stepping outside of yourself to say, if I'm asking, right, I have to be prepared for whatever answer this person gives me, and I have to respect it. Like, I know I have 2 friends who I love very dearly, but when they ask me something and I say I can't do it, they start giving me different ways and strategies for me to do it. And I'm like, I am a really smart woman. You know what I'm saying? Like, I could think of ways to make it happen.
Yeah.
I don't want to, which is why I said I can't make it,
Yeah.
It really, as I've gotten older, that's like nails on a chalkboard for me. Like, I am like, if you ask me, hey, can you come? And I'm like, oh, I can't. I have X, Y, and Z to do. And then they start saying, oh, but you could just do this first. And then da-da-da-da. And it's like, yeah, I already thought of that.
And I've come to the conclusion that no.
That I just don't wanna.
Yeah.
That's like my favorite episode of Friends, or one of them, Phoebe, when they ask her something. She's like, and everyone has all these reasons why they can't do something with like Monica or something, and she's like, yeah, I would, but I just don't want to. And I'm like, I want to be like that. I want to be able to say that and people not be offended by that.
Mm-hmm.
It's challenging.
Yes. Checking for time. How much time do we have left? Oh, wow. We've been going for a while. But you said, okay, I'll wrap it up soon because, we got to go. But, you said something yesterday when we were talking about this podcast, that like friendships, you need to know when your boundary is a Sharpie marker and when it's a dry erase marker. And that was like, oh my God, as Oprah says, an aha moment. I was like, yes. Because I've been drawing with a Sharpie for a while now.
In every situation,
yes.
right?
And I don't need to. And so I think, the lesson for me, and, in so many aspects of my life is just operating in a space of grace. And, I think Michelle Obama said it best in that you can have it all. You just can't have it at the same time. And so, learning when to say yes, learning when to say no, but also, just operating, have grace for others, have grace for yourself when you say no. So, yeah, is there anything you wanted to add, Gina? You look like you wanted to say something.
I don't even remember. But yes, definitely grace. And just also when you thinking about when we go back to boundaries and how we respond to others and thinking about it, I just think it's important to always really analyze your own intentions and the space you're moving from and the space you're responding from. Because I have found that when I do that, and if I think about, am I making this decision? Am I responding from a place of fear of them?
People pick up on that too,
fear
so they'll
of
react.
Losing someone, fear of hurting someone's feelings, fear of whatever, and not being true to who I am. It doesn't come across right at all. Like if I say no to someone out of fear, it comes across as angry, right?
Yeah.
If I say no to someone out of anger, it comes across as anger. If I say no to, you just have to make sure. But if I say I really can't, and I'm in a space where I'm comfortable with it, and I really just can't because I've had appropriate boundaries, it takes away that passive aggressive energy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then you can be at peace with it.
Yeah.
Because I've also learned sometimes when you try to accommodate others, that goes wrong, and
yeah.
then you're really in your feelings.
Yeah,
about
and then
it.
something goes wrong with the accommodation. They show up late or whatever.
Yeah,
and then
you're
it's a head explosion because you're just pissed.
Because you've settled,
yes.
right? You compromised on yourself.
Yeah.
And so
to accommodate.
Yeah.
When you shouldn't have.
Right. So that's why just the whole really thinking about like the space that you're in and moving from like a genuine, authentic space. And I also think that's just healthier in general to help you in all your relationships. And for me, it's been, you know, my most challenging situations have been with men. So
Yeah.
like just staying true to myself. If I want to call, I'm going to call. If I don't want to call, I'm not going to call. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If I want to go somewhere, I will. If I'm not, like, just making sure and not doing anything I don't want to do because I have to have my boundaries.
Yeah.
Like driving to Silver Spring at 8 o'clock.
Hinge date.
Right. on a school night.
Yes, we know that's not going to happen. Anyway, so, you know, in conclusion, like a term paper, it is okay to say no, ladies and gentlemen.
It is okay to
It's
say no.
okay to say no. And it's also okay to say yes, too.
Yeah.
So just make sure that your well has some water in it so you can pour out of it.
Absolutely.
So, anyway, well, that concludes my first podcast. Hey! Join us maybe next time for Tall Hungry Girl Talks. Don't get don't get married to that name because it may change. We shall see. Anyway, thanks for joining me and Gina. Until next time.